She stood in our driveway, unflinching, as the fake HOA officers arrived with flashing lights. The leader jumped out, pointing his gun directly at her. "Hands where I can see them. You're trespassing on HOA property," he barked. I froze, not because I believed him, but because I couldn't believe how far Karen had gone this time. She stood behind them, smirking as if she'd already won. My wife didn't flinch. Arms crossed, she met his gaze with unshakable calm. Karen's voice cut through the tension, sharp and commanding. "That house belongs to the HOA now. You and your wife need to leave before we make you." She waved a paper in the air, one of her fake notices stamped with the seal she probably printed at home. The neighbors peeked from windows, some filming, some whispering, hungry for the drama unfolding. The leader pressed his gun closer, hands trembling. My wife tilted her head slightly, her palm exuding quiet authority. "You really think pointing that at me is a good idea?" she said, calm and deliberate. Karen laughed. "And what's she going to do? Call the real cops?" "We are the cops," the fake officer said, trying to sound confident. A few chuckles followed from his team, but my wife didn't move. She leaned in, voice low and sharp. "Big mistake." The man blinked, caught off guard. Doubt flickered across his face. The silence broke when my wife lifted her jacket slowly, revealing the legally holstered pistol at her hip. The fake officer's eyes widened. He jerked the gun back as if stung. Karen gasped. "That's illegal. She can't carry that here. Arrest her." My wife stayed still, letting the badge clipped to her permit glint in the sun. "Ex-military," she stated evenly, her tone steel hard. "Qualified, licensed. Point that toy at me again, and you'll regret it." The men behind the leader whispered nervously, shifting on their feet. One even lowered his badge, realizing the charade was falling apart. Karen, red-faced, advanced, waving her papers like shields. "This is my neighborhood. I run this place," she screamed, spittle flying. My wife stepped closer to the man holding the gun, closing the gap. She didn't touch her weapon, didn't need to. Her eyes locked on his. Whispered, "You have no idea who you're pointing that at." Neighbors filming went silent, holding their breath. For the first time, the fake officers looked unsure if they were hunters or prey. Karen pressed forward, shoving the fake notice against my chest. "Read it. You've been evicted by the HOA board. Your wife is trespassing, and if she doesn't leave, we'll remove her ourselves." The paper shook, fueled by her wild certainty. I crumpled it in my fist, staring her down. "This land isn't HOA property. It's mine, recorded with the county. You don't own a single brick here." Karen smirked like she had another weapon hidden. She pointed at my wife's gun. "She won't fire. She can't because we already called the sheriff. When he gets here, you'll both be in cuffs." But what Karen didn't know, what none of them realized, was my wife had trained the sheriff's deputies for years. And at that moment, my phone buzzed, a text from Sheriff Daniels. "On my way. Don't let them move." My wife caught the recognition in my eyes and smiled faintly. Then, her voice cut through the chaos like thunder. "Drop the gun now." The leader flinched, hands trembling. The neighbors gasped. The fake cops looked like they'd walked into a trap. One whispered, "This doesn't feel right. Maybe we should leave." Karen spun on him like a snake. "Shut up. Nobody leaves until I say so." Her voice cracked, desperation creeping in. Then, sirens echoed faintly, red and blue lights flickering. Karen's smirk faltered. She forced it back, yelling, "The real cops are here. You'll see what happens when you cross me." The sheriff's cruiser pulled up. My wife didn't move, stepping aside, calm, hands away from her weapon. Daniels climbed out, eyes cold, assessing the situation. "What's going on here?" he asked sharply. Karen shoved forward, pointing at me. "Arrest them. They're ignoring HOA orders, and she's illegally armed." The fake officer chimed in, trying to sound tough. "We had to intervene, Sheriff. They're dangerous." Daniels raised a brow, calm, steel in his voice. "Funny, because I know her," he gestured to my wife. "She trained half my deputies. If she's armed, she's legal," the neighbors murmured. Phones kept recording. Karen's face drained of color, and certainty creeping in. My wife folded her arms, eyes fixed on Karen. Told you, she murmured. Karen's mouth opened and closed, unable to decide whether to scream or beg. She finally shrieked. They're lying, Sheriff. They forged the papers. This property belongs to the HOA. She waved the crumpled notice as if it were law. Daniels snatched it, scanning briefly, and laughed sharply. This isn't legal. It's a word template. You didn't even spell authority right. The neighbors erupted in laughter and applause. Karen's face flushed crimson, and she screamed over the crowd, "Stop laughing. I am the authority here." But Daniels wasn't done. He turned to the men in black uniforms and asked sharply, "Where did you get those badges?" The leader stammered, Online collector's items." Daniels' eyes hardened. "Impersonating an officer is a felony. You understand what that means, right?" By now, 2 more deputies had arrived, stepping out with handcuffs at the ready. The neighbors leaned forward, capturing every second on their phones. Karen panicked, pointing frantically at me and my wife. "You don't understand. They're the criminals. She pulled a gun on us. He threatened us." My wife finally spoke, her voice slicing through the chaos. "You pointed first. It's all on camera." I tapped my phone, showing the live feed from our security system. Karen froze as she saw herself directing fake officers to pull guns on us. No, you can't. Delete that. Delete it," she shrieked, clawing at the air. But the footage was already spreading. The neighbors weren't just watching anymore, they were cheering. Karen's screams rang through the street, but the deputies ignored her, moving toward the fake officers. One by one, they were disarmed, their badges stripped, their weapons checked and tagged. The leader tried to resist, but Daniels pressed him against the hood of the cruiser with a single, precise move. "You're done playing cop," he growled. The crowd erupted, some even chanted, "Lock her up! Lock her up!" Phones captured every angle. Karen spun, fingers pointing, voice cracking under panic. "You can't do this. I own this neighborhood. I am the HOA." Daniels didn't even look at her. He signaled to a deputy, "Cuff her too." The metal clicked around her wrists, and the crowd went wild. She kicked and thrashed, screaming, "I'll sue all of you. I'll take your houses. You'll regret this." But the laughter of the neighbors drowned her out. "About time," someone shouted. My wife remained calm, arms folded, silent victory louder than any words. She looked at me and murmured, "Told you they'd fold." Karen was shoved into the back of the cruiser, still ranting, still claiming power she never had. Daniels shook his head. "Every street's got one," he muttered. Then, softer, he turned to us. "You handled this right. Proud of you for staying calm, especially you," he said, nodding at my wife. Most people would have reacted the moment a gun was pointed at them. She smiled faintly. "I don't fight unless I have to, but I don't back down either." The deputies loaded the fake officers into the cruiser, while neighbors lingered, buzzing as if they had just witnessed a live TV drama. Phones stayed up, live streams rolling. Karen's voice was barely audible now, muffled by the cruiser glass as she pounded her fists, screaming about lawyers and control. An older neighbor, standing on his porch with a flag, stepped forward and saluted my wife. "Ma'am, thank you for your service. People like her think they can bully everyone." Glad someone finally stood up. My wife returned the nod, almost embarrassed by the attention. Daniels smiled at us. "We'll press multiple charges: impersonating an officer, brandishing a firearm, harassment, trespassing. And you," he said, pointing at me, "keep that footage safe. It's evidence and it's the nail in her coffin." Karen, hearing that through the glass, thrashed harder, screaming, "You can't arrest me. I am the HOA. This whole block answers to me." Daniels chuckled. "Not anymore." As the cruisers pulled away, neighbors erupted in applause, some whistling. For the first time since we moved in, the weight lifted from my chest. No more fake notices. No more threats. The so-called queen of the block had been dethroned, caught on 10 different cameras. My wife slipped her hand into mine. She thought she had power. Turns out all she had was paper. The street quieted, leaving only neighbors still buzzing, shaking our hands, promising to share the video far and wide. For once, we weren't outsiders. We were the couple who stood up to Karen and won. I glanced at my wife, calm, steady, and shaken. You didn't even flinch when that gun was in your face, I whispered. She squeezed my hand, voice low and fierce. I've faced worse overseas. A bully in an HOA uniform doesn't scare me. The older man with the flag raised his voice so the crowd could hear. That's what America is about. Standing your ground. Land, family, freedom. Nobody takes that from you. His words hit hard. People clapped, some wiping their eyes. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low and the street finally calmed, I replayed the security footage. Every second of Karen's downfall was there, her fake authority, her hired imposters, her meltdown. I uploaded it to the neighborhood chat. Within minutes, the comments exploded. She finally got what she deserved. Respect to your wife. She's a hero. I closed my phone, wrapped an arm around my wife, and whispered, "We're not going anywhere. This is our home." She smiled, looking at the house we had fought to protect. No HOA bully could take it from us. For the first time since moving in, the night felt peaceful. Justice had been done, and everyone had seen it. No fake authority could silence it. You don't mess with the soldier's family on their own land.